boyfriend who's 17 or anyone here who's homeless. It's a disgrace that we are in the situation that we're in.
But yeah, just, I don't know, the Liberal Party here have lost all decency and are out of touch with their electorate. People I talked to when I was getting signatures in the petition, they all are disgraced at what they want to do to us through a job. They can find accommodation for us for 3 days, then why can't they do it permanently?
Everybody, every single person without exception deserves the right to a house.
Shelter is a right, it is not a privilege.
There are 13,000 homeless people in the state alone. 13,000 of which 6,000 are under the age of 18. And believe it or not, 1,500 are under the age of 12.
This is a wealthy country. This is a rich country. There is no need for anybody in this country, with the resources that we have in this country, with the resources we have from the mining boom, there is no reason for anybody, for any person, to be left out on the streets.
Yeah. What we do know is that in this budget there are no real measures. There is nothing there to deal with the issue of homelessness, to deal with the many facilities that are required.
We need drop-in centres, we need safe spaces, we need laundries, we need showers, we need transitional accommodation, we need treatment centres, we need psychosocial counsellors, we need programs that help people towards employability, and a lot of it is just simple funds which they can never find. They can find...
He was trained at myself to Buswell's office on Monday. He refused continuously to come down. He actually laid down on his back seat of his car so that we couldn't see him coming into the office. We actually knew he was there because we knew it was his car, but yeah, he decided to hide from us. And then when he decided to go down to his cabinet meeting, we followed him down there to the Governor Sterling Tower, and that's when they decided to bring the police and move us on. But anyway, going back to the reason why this all started was over the comments with chogm and the police minister's comments to give us all a pillow and a tent and put us in the later men's backyard. Well, I was disgraced about what those comments were, and I know a lot of other people were, and me and another fellow who's here today, Ken, we actually started doing this protest and petition originally from there, and it's just grown from there to housing and the lack of housing for under 18-year-olds who legally can't sign a lease, and the Minister Buswell is one that can help them and refuses to even acknowledge that they're there. So as of this stage, we are going to ask for his resignation. I'm also going to ask for him next week, and I will embarrass him in his electorate.
I was disgusted when Troy Buswell refused to come out and meet Corey. I was here with Corey on Monday when he chained himself to the front of Buswell's office, and I noticed, I saw what the contempt that Buswell displayed. And I've also seen a couple of weeks ago in the paper when Troy Buswell said that Homes West housing shouldn't be considered to be a privilege for life. And what we've seen is in people living in Homes West, there's been a lot of pressure from this government to kick them out. Oh, your income's gone up a little bit, out of your Homes West house. And this idea by Buswell that public housing is not a privilege. Only the most desperate people are allowed to have public housing. Well, that's not true. Public housing should be a right for everybody. That's what we need to see in this country. That's what is right and justified for all of us to see. So we're here today to push that right. No one on the streets, no one living in under housing stress, public housing for everybody.
This government needs to start treating people who are living on our streets with some decency and some respect. I'm absolutely appalled about some of the things that have come from some of the ministers in relation to the issues of moving on around chogm and the like. And we've already heard here about the way that Mr Buswell is choosing to treat people who are his constituents, who he has an obligation to be meeting with, and to actually hear their stories and to actually hear, as the minister responsible, what he should be doing to deal with the plight of homelessness. I think it is an absolute travesty that he's not been prepared to man up and actually listen to the people who are affected by the decisions that he's making.
Say, Troy Buswell, just that you're a disgrace to the human race. You are an absolute disgrace to the human race. horrible housing situations. Who are you? You're not even human. You don't have a heart.
Troy Buswell is not fit to be the Minister for Housing. He could not find 5 minutes of humanity last week where Rob Johnson did to come down and meet Corey and the Streeties. He could not find those 5 minutes. And in correspondence between myself and his office in this last week, between Corey and his staffers, he has refused to meet. And do you know what his staff have said? That Troy Buswell has said, wherever Corey and the Streeties will be, he will not be. That is the arrogance of the man.
Now, the Chogm Action Network has been very supportive of these series of protests by homeless people in the recent month or so. We've been doing as much as we can to encourage these protests and to support them where we can. And it is really important because we do see the total disparity between what is actually happening in the Parliament behind us and the reality faced by homeless people. And who could not have been outraged by those comments by Rob Johnson in Parliament? Who could not have been outraged by that? And so what do we see instead? The government is spending millions, literally millions of dollars to house rich people in 5-star hotels for a few days over that chogm summit. What an outrage. Millions of dollars to spend, for already rich people to be living in 5-star hotels while homeless people are living on the street. That's the kind of thing that we're protesting against.
We met recently with the Police Minister, Rob Johnson, about his comments in Parliament about the exclusion zones for the Chogm Week, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in October, where they want our homeless folk to move on, and that he would give them a tent or a blanket to sleep under some other bridge. Well, he may have apologised, not a full apology, not to community in the way that he put it out originally, and that apology has to come from Rob Johnson to community, through the media en masse, and by Colin Barnett of his government. Rob Johnson did come down last week and speak to Corey and crew, the Streeties protest group which Corey leads. And Rob Johnson did have the humanity, at least for 20 minutes, to speak and try and do the distance. Even though Rob Johnson does not understand the difference between homelessness, acute and abject, and public housing waiting lists. Most of the folk who are homeless, acute and abject, who are on our streets and in the traps and in the parks, most of them are actually not on the public housing waiting lists. He doesn't understand hardship. He thinks his hardship, his university days, or struggling to pay the bills, is the equivalent of people on the streets, or is the equivalent of those single-parent families or families waiting on public housing waiting lists.
Now, I want to say to you, I'm not entirely happy with Labor's record on public housing when we were in power. And I want to see a better performance from a future Labor government. And so I'm saying to our shadow ministers, we have got to come up with a much more robust and better resourced housing policy than we had in the last period of government. Because I know that housing is where the rubber really hits the road. If people are going to prosper, they need shelter at affordable rates. If people are not going to be disadvantaged in the middle of a resources boom, they need shelter, they need housing at affordable rates. And so I want you to know we are focused on the housing issue, not only in attacking the government and exposing a person like Rob Johnson, but also, and his appalling attitudes, but also in developing new policy for the future that will address this fundamental issue of social justice.
I would like to thank Eric Gripper for coming in today and actually lending the support of the Labor Party to this campaign. And I think it's a good thing that he's done so. I think it is good that he acknowledged the poor record that the previous Labor governments have had, because that is a fact. Actually, both Labor and Liberal governments, neither of them have got a decent policy on public housing. Neither of them have got a record, and that's why we've got to judge politicians on their record. You've got to judge politicians not by what they say, but what they do. I'll be a lot more impressed when Eric Gripper comes out and gives us a number for how many public houses his future Ripper government will build. That will impress me a lot more than a vague promise that we will do better. In fact, what will impress me even more than that is when the Labor Party comes out and makes a pledge that there will be no homelessness, that they will wipe out the public housing waiting list. There will be zero on the public housing waiting list. That is a promise that I will be impressed to hear.
Why a lot of people are on the street through no fault of their own, but they're discriminated against, just the same as our Indigenous people and other races. We discriminate against the ones who can fight back the least. They're the ones that are easy targets, and we're sick of people being an easy target. We need to stand up for ourselves.
Grandfather's land, and you can sleep wherever you want. We never gave up our sovereignty. You know, this is our land. This land has been my grandfather's country since the beginning of time. So you can sleep wherever you want, and you have my permission as a First Nation person on this land. This government that we got here, it's invalid. It's null and void. The Queen is also null and void.